Welcome to the Wellness Transformation Journey podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Peters. Stress and eating can often go hand in hand. Sometimes we overeat when we're stressed, and sometimes we undereat. Stress can also impact what we choose to eat because we often go for comfort foods and sweets. I went into more detail about this and how to cope with stress to potentially avoid stress in the last episode. In this episode, I'll talk about creating plans to prevent or intervene with stress eating moments and to learn to control emotional eating. When you find yourself stressed, one way to avoid eating is to learn to find other ways to respond to the stress beyond eating. If you determine that you're hungry, then have a meal. If you're eating because you determine you're stressed, then find a way to change the environment or distract yourself from eating. Changing your environment, if possible, can reset your mind. It doesn't have to be a major change. Often going on a walk for a few minutes can be all that it takes to reset your mind. I'll often just take a walk around the hall in my office if I'm at work, just to get out of my office and get away from my desk, because when I'm sitting there for hours at a time, I'll often find myself looking for something to grab to eat. But if I get up and I walk around, then I'm able to mentally reset and go back to what I'm doing. Other approaches could be finding someone to talk to. So if you're bored and other people are available, talk to them or give them a call. Sometimes, especially if we're at home and watching TV, we need something to keep our hands busy. Take up a hobby like crocheting, or do a puzzle, or do something else to keep your hands moving and your mind active. I'm not a crocheter. I do like doing puzzles from time to time, but sometimes, because I don't want to just go mindlessly sit on social media, I'll get up and pace in the house just to get my body moving and to get my mind distracted from not having anything to do except watch TV or watch whatever game's on. Often we eat and don't even realize it. We have to learn how to recognize when we're eating because we're bored or we're eating because we're stressed and we're just trying to get our minds off of whatever's going on. Then, once we know what we're doing, we can develop responses to cope with the stress and cope with our emotions. If you're hungry, first take a few minutes to do a full body scan. Ask yourself if you are really hungry. Also, consider the time of day. When's the last time you ate? If you just ate an hour ago or 2 hours ago, you're probably not hungry. You're probably just wanting to eat because you're bored or you're stressed or something's going on with your emotions. This may not always be true. It also depends on how much did you eat when you last ate. But after you ask yourself, am I really hungry, and you evaluate your hunger, then you can start to reset and refocus your hunger if it's not actually because your body's hungry, but you're looking for something to do or you're trying to control your emotions. Another strategy is to mindfully eat. This does require you to pay attention to what you're eating and how you feel while you're eating. To do this, you need to remove distractions so you can focus on the flavor and taste of the food. This also helps you to learn to focus and to notice when you're full. Often, if we're distracted with the television or we have other people around, not saying that eating around other people is bad, but we sometimes will overeat because we are so distracted we're not paying attention to what we're putting in our mouths, or we may undereat when we're around people because if you're like me, I don't want people to see how much I actually eat because I still do have a fear of being judged. So this day and age, most people or a lot of people eat with the television on, or they eat with some kind of distraction beyond their family and friends. So to mindfully eat, if you're not with family and friends, turn off the distractions, have a seat at the table, and focus on you and what you're eating. If you're with family and friends, slow yourself down, have conversation, take a moment, whether you're eating alone or eating with people, take a moment, put the fork down in between each bite to take time to taste the food and absorb those flavors and the smells. And you'll actually find yourself potentially eating less, but you're also going to notice when you are full. This takes time, and even for me, I try to do this once in a while, but I'm not always very good at doing it. But once you learn to focus on what you're eating, then you can start focusing on your portion sizes, because you'll start to notice how much you actually eat in a meal. And one tip that I learned was, when you start out, put food on your plate and eat what's on your plate. Then you can go back for more if you're still hungry. So start with smaller portions and build up. Because if you're like me, you also feel guilty about throwing the food away, but you can keep the food and have leftovers. I eat a lot of leftovers. But the whole idea of mindful eating is to notice your food, taste your food, notice when you're hungry, notice what you're eating, and then you can build from that. And it's also about, when you're with family and friends, building relationships and taking time to notice the people you're around. Often I know if I'm with people and I eat in front of the TV, we don't talk, we just focus on what's on the TV. I eat faster. I don't really taste what I'm eating. So this forces you to slow down and notice all that. So I started once a week, and like I say, I'm not always the best at sticking with it, but it's a good practice to get started. Another method I use is I make food harder to access. I put it out of sight, and when I do want something, I take only a little bit out of the bag and put it in a different bowl. This allows me to control the portions. So there are times that even when I'm not hungry, I still just want something to snack on. So by taking it out of the bag and putting it in something else, I'm controlling the portions that I'm putting into my body. It also forces me to focus on the fact that I am eating, and focus on the fact of, am I stress eating? Am I emotionally eating? Am I just bored? For instance, last night, I pulled a box of raisins out of my cupboard thinking, I'm going to eat, I'm hungry. And I went and sat down in my chair, and as I was getting ready to open them, I did a quick body scan, and I realized I really wasn't hungry, I was just bored. And I set them aside, and told myself, if you're still hungry 5 minutes from now, then open those up. And I got up this morning and they were still sitting where I left them, so I put them back in the cupboard. Putting things in another container or putting them away forces us to ask ourselves if we're really hungry and if we really want to eat. So what I do also is, when I put that serving in another bowl or in another container, then I go to a different room, not in the kitchen, to eat, and I leave the bag in the kitchen. One thing I've noticed, if I take it out of the original container, or I take the original container with me, I could eat a whole bag of chips if I really wanted to. So this requires effort, and it makes me ask myself if I really want to put the effort in to get the food. And that sounds weird because it may only be 20 steps away, but you still have to put effort in. So it's just that mind check of, is this something I really want? Is this something I really want to do? And like I say, sometimes you just may get it out, set it aside, and that gives your body a chance to really ask itself, is this something I really want to do? If you do emotionally eat, which at some point we all probably will, and we all probably do, the biggest thing is to not allow it to spiral out of control. Recognize that emotional eating happens, and then allow yourself to reset your mind and move on. Don't beat yourself up over the fact that you did it. I know this is easier said than done, but developing tactics to support yourself can help you overcome this in the future. As you move through your wellness journey, you'll begin to develop emotional resilience to stressors. You'll also learn tactics that best work for you to handle stress. Learning what works for you, such as incorporating other activities, hobbies, or mindfulness, can be a life changer. And this, however, does take time to develop those habits. For instance, I've decided I'm getting to the end of my half marathon training cycle. I'm going to kind of shut things down after my half marathon and just take a break. But that doesn't mean I'm going to quit running. That doesn't mean I'm going to quit being active. I just want to find some new ways to be active. I'm also looking at some ways to control my Raynaud's disease and get better circulation in my hands and toes. So I've decided to try to take up yoga again. It's something I've tried in the past. I like it, but then I get away from it. So it's going to take time. I was frustrated this morning. I was trying to do my first yoga set in probably months or years. And it's going to take time. It was frustrating because I wasn't where I wanted to be, but then I had to remind myself, you haven't done this in a long time. So don't get frustrated. Whatever habit you're developing, whatever strategy you're using, it's not a quick fix. It's going to take time to get there. There are points where you might need support and you can't do it on your own. You may need to find a personal trainer, nutritionist, or use an app to help establish some strategies. I've used an app. I haven't used a nutritionist or personal trainer, but I have used an app in the past to help me establish some strategies. I also go to friends and will just get tips from them to help with strategies. In some cases, seeking professional help to handle stress may be necessary beyond just nutritionist or personal trainer. You may need to go to counseling. I've shared in the past, I do counseling when I need it. It can be beneficial in the short term and the long term. If it works for you, don't worry about what anybody else thinks. I have people that look down on me because I go to counseling, and I really don't care. It helps me, so that's all that matters. From my own personal experience, and I've shared this, when you get your mental health in check, you're able to develop strategies and different outlets to support the rest of your wellness journey. That doesn't mean I don't get off track from time to time, and I have to continue to develop and refine my strategies. I have to continue to find new things to do. Like I say, I'm going to try taking up yoga, not just for the physical activity, but also the meditative side of it. I often use physical activity like running to support my mental health, because I realize my mental health supports my physical health, and my physical health supports my mental health. It's all kind of this circle that if one gets off, the other can get off. So I'm very mindful of that. And again, that doesn't mean I don't get off. I have to check myself from time to time, because there's days I just want to lay in bed, and that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you need that as well. So just understand that it's okay to seek professional help in any capacity, whether it's nutrition, mental health, physical health. There's nothing wrong with that. Do what you need to do for yourself. Stress will always be a part of our lives. We can't completely avoid stress. There's just no way to avoid stress in your life. But we can learn to manage it. Learning to listen to our bodies and our emotions will help manage emotional eating. It will help manage emotional undereating. It will help manage your mental health. Once we understand how to recognize that, then we can develop and refine healthy habits to combat stress. Like everything else in a wellness journey, managing your stress takes time to learn the habits and to learn how to do it. But as you understand your triggers and learn to recognize your stress, and when you're getting highly stressed, you'll know what works best for you, and you'll learn how to control whatever is stressing you, whatever your triggers are. Until next time, I wish you all the best in your wellness journey, and I'll be back here soon.